Two stories, one weekend, and both of them hit the sport at exactly the same time in exactly the wrong way. Mercedes, the team that dominated Formula One for a decade, the team that won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships, caught running a power unit trick that the FIA has now banned. Not a gray area, not a technical interpretation that reasonable people could debate. Banned, gone, closed with immediate effect. Max Verstappen, 4-time world champion, the most dominant driver of his generation. He is now saying directly, not through an agent, not through a carefully worded team statement, that he is ready to walk away from this sport. That if things do not change, Formula One is not somewhere he wants to be anymore. Put those two stories in the same weekend, and you do not have a news cycle. You have a crisis, a genuine, structural, this is bigger than one race crisis that the people running Formula One need to take seriously right now. Today we are breaking down exactly what Mercedes did, why the FIA moved to ban it, how much of a performance advantage it actually gave them, and then we are going to talk about Verstappen, what he actually said, and why the sport cannot afford to treat this as one unhappy driver letting off steam. Subscribe to F1 Race Report right now. Let us start with Mercedes, because the details matter, and the way this story has been reported elsewhere has missed some of the most significant parts. The 2026 power unit regulations mandate that 50% of the car's total power output comes from the electrical system, the MGUK, with the other 50% from the internal combustion engine. Energy management is now the defining performance variable in this era. How you harvest it, when you deploy it, how you sequence it through a lap. Those decisions determine race pace, qualifying performance, and the closing speed differentials that already produced a 50G crash at Suzuka. What Mercedes found, and what the FIA has now banned, was a method of manipulating their power unit's energy deployment sequencing in a way that sat outside the spirit of the regulations. Mercedes found a way to use their electrical deployment in sequences the regulations were not designed to permit. It was a software and calibration approach that exploited how the 2026 rules were written, giving them more usable power at critical points on a lap than any other team on the grid could access. The FIA acted quickly. The technical directive came down and the trick was closed. Whether Mercedes face retrospective penalties for races already completed is still being navigated, but the performance advantage they gained in the opening phase of 2026 was real, and it was not something any other team knew about or could replicate. Here's why this matters beyond one team getting caught. Slow, serious. The 2026 regulations are 3 races old. They are the most significant technical reset in over a decade, and already the sport has had a 50G crash, a governing body admitting their own rules contributed to a dangerous incident, and now a front-running team exploiting a power unit loophole nobody else had found. 3 serious regulation problems in 3 race weekends. That pattern does not fix itself. Now let's talk about Verstappen, because this is the conversation Formula One cannot afford to get wrong. Verstappen has always been direct. He has criticized tires, race formats, stewards' decisions throughout his career. Drivers say things after difficult weekends and the story moves on. That is the normal cycle. This is not that cycle. What Verstappen has been saying in 2026 is different in its specificity and consistency. He is not frustrated about one race result. He's frustrated about the fundamental nature of what Formula One has become under the new regulations. The energy management, the fact that a driver can be 50 kilometers per hour faster than the car in front through no decision of their own, purely because of how the power unit is sequencing electrical deployment on that lap. The feeling that the best driver does not always control their own destiny anymore. Verstappen's entire identity is built on control, on attack, on the belief that the best driver in the best car will win. The 2026 regulations have introduced a level of variability into that equation that he finds genuinely intolerable. And Red Bull's performance in the opening 3 races has given him no reason to believe the car will solve it. He has options. IndyCar has wanted him for years. Endurance racing at Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship is something he has spoken about with genuine enthusiasm. These are not backup plans. These are things Verstappen actually wants to do. And for the first time in his career, Formula One is not obviously the best version of that. The Mercedes engine trick adds a specific layer to his frustration. Verstappen's Red Bull is not at the front of the field. Now he learns a competitor was running a banned power unit advantage. That means some of the performance deficit he's been fighting was not just the natural result of the regulation reset. Some of it was built on something that shouldn't have been there. For a driver who measures everything in tenths of a second, that lands very differently than a generic complaint about the competition. Here's what the FIA and Formula One's commercial leadership need to sit with this week. Not after Miami, this week. The 2026 regulations were designed to bring in a new era, new manufacturers, new competitive balance, a more sustainable power unit formula. Those are legitimate goals. None of that is wrong. But 3 races in, the new era has produced a banned engine trick, a dangerous crash the FIA admitted their own rules contributed to, and now the most famous active driver in the world saying he is ready to leave. You don't fix those 3 things by waiting for more data. The Mercedes ban needs a clear and transparent explanation of what was found and what the consequences are. Not for Mercedes specifically, but for the integrity of the 2026 results already on the books. The Behrman crash needs a regulation response before Miami, and the Verstappen situation needs someone at the top of this sport to have an honest conversation about whether the product they are asking him to compete in is one that a 4-time world champion should want to be part of. Formula One has survived bigger storms, the turbo wars, the political chaos of the early 2000s, the V8 to V6 transition. The sport is more globally watched right now than at any point in its history. But big audiences are not loyal by default. They're loyal to the story. And right now, the story has a banned engine trick, a dangerous crash, and its biggest star walking towards the exit. That is not the story Formula One wants to be telling 3 races into its most important regulatory era in a generation. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think the FIA handled the Mercedes engine ban correctly? And is Verstappen actually leaving, or is this the pressure that finally forces the sport to fix what's broken? Subscribe to F1 Race Report for this conversation every single week. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you at Miami.